Aloha, I'm Mrs. Fisher, and today we're going to be looking at compound and complex sentences. The way that you punctuate these is the number one biggest error that college freshmen make. So let's make sure you know how to do this today before you leave, so you will be ready for college. All right, so as you remember, our image of the bird, we have our right subject claw, our left verb claw, and it makes a complete clause with the bird's claws, right? It can stand on its own. You remember that we have an imperative sentence that could have just a verb with the understood you and can also stand on its own. Like wave, dance, run. We learned that sentences start with a capital letter, that they end with punctuation marks, and that they have a subject and a verb. We learned that we can add modifiers, adjectives to the subject, and add modifiers, adverbs to the verbs. For example, the young Polynesian man painstakingly and thoroughly raked the plumerian flowers. So today we're going to look at a concept of how to punctuate compound sentences, and we're going to look at BOYSFAN.
Conjunctions. Coordinating conjunctions.
Conjunctions. All right, here we go. Conjunctions. Coordinating conjunctions have a pull function. They link grammatically equal words, phrases, and clauses with but, or, yet, so, for, and, or. Between the pauses where linking could be Laura, my sister loves you and me. A phrase linked to a phrase is easy as can be. Jeff moved around the pool and around the tree. A clause linked to a clause needs two subjects and two verbs. I memorized the poem and I wrote down every word. Coordinated conjunctions used in pairs are called correlatives, and the sentence they share. Correlative conjunctions, there are four. Not only, but also, but, and, either, or, and, neither, nor. Coordinated conjunctions have a cool function. Coordinating conjunctions link words, phrases, and clauses with but, or, yet, so, for, and, nor. Between the pauses.
But, or, yet, so, for, and, nor. Between the pauses. All right. This means that BOYSFAN is an acronym that represents but, or, yet, so, for, and, nor. When you combine two independent clauses that have in them, of course, we know what they have: subject, verb, right? Right, left. It creates a compound sentence. But there's also something called a complex sentence where you also have subject, verb, but instead of BOYSFAN, they're connected with these other words. So let's look at these. They're connected with these things called subordinating conjunctions, and that creates a complex sentence.
SC, subordinating conjunctions.
Subordinating conjunctions.
All right. ICDC is all Greek to me. Please put it in English and make it easy. Okay, an IC is a simple sentence. For example, I played tennis. A DC is a simple sentence with a conjunction added to it. Don't panic, we learned those in a minute. Anyway, if I add a conjunction to my sentence, for example, when I play tennis, now that sentence no longer makes sense on its own. I must add another simple sentence to make the meaning known. When I played tennis, I missed the ball, chipped my tooth, and went to the dentist. Now it's time to learn those conjunctions like I promised. So
here they are.
Conjunctions. What are your functions? They link unequal ranking ICs to ICs as their function. Like after, although, unless, until, when, and whenever. Than, that, because, before, wherever, while, and whether. Since, as if, as much as, upon, if, where, as soon as, in order that, least, and so, that, as though, as long as, aboard, amid, beyond, but like, past, and through. Throughout, underneath, as for, instead of, according to. If you add one to a sentence, it no longer stands alone. You'll need to add an IC to make the meaning known. The difference between a preposition and one of these is a prep doesn't have a verb like an IC or DC.
About ICs and DCs, I told you the truth. Now I have to go fix my tooth. All right, so those are subordinating conjunctions. And you could say, oh my gosh, that list is so long. I don't know if I can remember that, Mrs. Fisher. The good news is, as long as you know BOYSFAN, all the other ones, if they're in there, they are either going to count as the comma, or you're going to need to add a comma if they're at the beginning of the sentence. So, whenever you add one of those, after, although, unless, until, when, whenever, then, that, because, before, wherever, while, whether, since, as much as, upon, if, where, as soon as, in order, that, at least, and so, that, as though, as long as, aboard, and beyond, but like, path, through, underneath, until, as for, instead of according to. When you add one to a sentence, it no longer stands alone. You need to add an independent clause to make the meaning known. All of that is just to help you understand. Here we have, if I say, I fill up my Jeep, that is a complete thought. But when I say, when I fill up my Jeep, that's no longer a complete thought. You need to know what happens next. It costs an arm and a leg. Now I know, now it's a complete thought because I added this subject-verb clause to it. If I decided to put this dependent clause, has this introductory word, right, this subordinating conjunction, if I put it in the middle of the sentence, it costs an arm and a leg when I fill up my Jeep. It becomes the comma. You don't need a comma. When you had but, or, yet, so, for, and nor, BOYSFAN, you had to have a comma. So all of this sounds overwhelming, but it's really not. It's very simple. It boils down to this. You look in your sentence, and if you have a combination of subject, verb, and it could have more than one subject, more than one verb, but as soon as you have subject, verb, and another subject and verb, then you know you have to put these sentences together with one of two things. What will be connecting them? Will you have BOYSFAN connecting them, or will you have a subordinating conjunction connecting them? If it's one of these words, BOYSFAN, you need a comma before it. You need a comma before it. You need a comma before BOYSFAN. I must iterate that over and over again. Reiterate that. If it is one of these words and it's in the middle of the sentence, you look at it as the comma. Do not add a comma before any of these words in the middle of the sentence. After, although, unless, until, when, whenever, then, that, because, before, wherever, while, whether, any of those. So, try the following sentences with BOYSFAN. So I'm letting you know that BOYSFAN is in it. So let's look. Please punctuate correctly. Tony gave the presentation, but Ashley changed slides. Where do we put the comma? Try number 2. Either Nikki bought the tickets or Lance bought them. Where do you put the comma? Number 3. Rob cooked steak, yet Donna wanted chicken. Where do you put the comma? Number 4. Tony bought movies, so Ashley made popcorn. Where do you put the comma? Number 5. Lance bought flowers for he wanted to surprise Nikki. Where do you put the comma? Rob drove the car and Donna slept next to him. Where do you put the comma? Neither Tony had cash nor Ashley had cash for tolls. One thing I want to point out is every time you have a sentence that has either, you have to have or. Neither, you have to have nor. Alright, so do not mistake BOYSFAN between subjects and verbs. So if you have a subject verb, and then you have but, or, yet, so, for, and nor with another verb, no subject before it, then you would not put that comma. For example, I can join the choir or join the band. It didn't say I can join the choir or I can join the band. If you said I again, then you would have the comma. But because it's just two verbs, join and join, there's no comma. No second subject, no comma. Lance, my son-in-law, and Nikki, my daughter, played a round of golf at Clipper Golf Course and went snorkeling at Panama Bay. that looks like a long sentence. Surely there should be a comma. No, because you have subject, subject, verb, and then another verb, but you don't have another subject. You only put that comma if it has another subject. So if you would say, and they went snorkeling, then you would put the comma. Only if you have that second subject. Alright, so here's some nice easy ones for you to do. Try the following sentences with BOYSFAN, and this time double check subject verb, subject verb. How would you punctuate Tony gave the answer but was wrong? How would you punctuate Tony gave the answer but he was wrong? How would you punctuate Rob wants to grill yet the propane was out? I fixed it. Rob wanted to grill yet the propane was out. Tony bought movies and made popcorn. How do you punctuate that one? How do you punctuate Tony bought movies and he also made popcorn? How do you punctuate Lance bought flowers for his wife, Nikki? This one's numbered weird. How do you punctuate Rob took the car and Donna took the Jeep? How do you punctuate neither Tony had time nor Ashley had time for games? Alright, when it comes to punctuation, the sentence with an independent clause and a dependent clause does not need a comma, but one that starts with that dependent clause has a comma after it for the independent clause. So that means that if these words are in the middle of the sentence, they act as the comma. You don't need to put the comma when they're in the middle of the sentence. Tony gave the presentation while Ashley changed slides. While is not on our but or yet so for and nor list, so it acts as the comma. We do not put the comma. You do the other ones on your own. Tony gave the presentation while Ashley changed slides. Number 2, how do you punctuate Nikki bought the tickets since Lance asked for them? Number 3, how do you punctuate Rob cooked steak although Donna wanted chicken? How do you punctuate Tony bought movies before Ashley made popcorn? How do you punctuate Lance bought flowers when he wanted to surprise Nikki? How do you punctuate Rob drove the car so that Donna could sleep next to him? And how do you punctuate Tony had cash until Ashley spent it on tolls? Okay, so now in these examples, instead of having that subordinating conjunction in the middle of the sentence acting like the comma, now it's in the beginning of the sentence, which means you have to now separate the second subject and verb with a comma. For example, this first one, while Tony gave the presentation, comma, Ashley changed slides. So before that subject, that second subject, we had to put a comma. So now you try the next one. Since Nikki bought the tickets, Lance bought dinner. Number 3, although Rob cooked steak, Donna wanted chicken. Before Tony bought movies, Ashley made popcorn. When Lance bought flowers, he wanted to surprise Nikki. So that Rob drove safely, Donna stayed awake next to him. Until Tony ran out of cash, Ashley used his money on tolls. All right. So now look at these rules for how we punctuate sentences that are put together. So subject verb, we know that makes a complete thought, right? But if we add one of those subordinate conjunctions, it doesn't. So here we have subject verb, subject verb. You can just put periods after each. Nikki wanted spaghetti, Lance wanted steak. You could punctuate them by putting periods at the end of each. Another rule, you could put those same two sentences together with a semicolon between the two. Nikki wanted spaghetti, semicolon, Lance wanted steak. As we learned with BOYSFAN, we could put a coordinating conjunction between the two. Nikki made spaghetti, comma, but Lance wanted steak. Or we could add a subordinate conjunction to the beginning, making one a dependent clause. Although Lance wanted steak, comma, Nikki made spaghetti. Notice you have the comma between theirs because now you have that introductory word at the beginning of that sentence, of the subordinate conjunction. Nikki made spaghetti, although Lance wanted steak. When although was now in the middle of the sentence, that's subordinate conjunction because it's not part of BOYSFAN, right? Although it's not in there, it became the comma. All right, so now I want you to properly punctuate the yellow sentences. So the two sentences we're putting together are he studies and she reads. Try punctuating, and of course we could put periods after each. We could put semicolon between the two. Or how do we do it when we're adding a coordinated conjunction? She reads and he studies. Now how do you punctuate it when you have a subordinating conjunction in the middle of the sentence? She reads while he studies. Now how do you punctuate it when the subordinating conjunction is at the beginning of the sentence? While he studies, she reads. I know you're getting this. I know you're getting it. It's getting easier, isn't it? It makes sense. And now you're smarter than most freshmen in college. All right, so properly punctuate the yellow sentences. Now we have two, Lance and Nikki, two subjects, listen. Ashley and Tony sing. We could put those together with a semicolon between the two. Lance and Nikki listen, Ashley and Tony sing, because they're closely related. Or, if we use a coordinating conjunction, how do you punctuate that? Lance and Nikki listen, and Ashley and Tony sing. How do you punctuate it? When you have a subordinating conjunction in the middle of the sentence. Lance and Nikki listen while Ashley and Tony sing. What about if we put that subordinate conjunction in the beginning of the sentence? While Ashley and Tony sing, Lance and Nikki listen. If we add prepositional phrases, it does not change. Our punctuation still goes between those coordinating conjunctions. So but, or, yet, so, for, and, nor, right? BOYSFAN. My teacher can stay after school, but I must leave for the bus. Lance drove around Oahu, comma, and Nikki looked for rainbows. So you notice these prepositional phrases: after school, for the bus, around Oahu, for rainbows, at the beach, photos of the mountains, to Fort Campbell with him. So Lance drove around Oahu, comma, coordinating conjunction, and Nikki looked for rainbows. Ashley took photos at the beach, comma, coordinating conjunction, yet she wanted photos of the mountains. My son got married on October 13th, 2017, comma, so his fiancée, Ashley, could move to Fort Campbell with him. But, or, yet, so, for, and, nor, we put the comma before them. Your turn to punctuate these compound sentences. My husband can stay in the yard, but I cannot stay in the yard. Lance stayed in the aloha room, and Nikki stayed in the upstairs room. Ashley loves being at the beach, yet she is too cold to go in the water. My son got straight A's in college. He did, by the way, so he graduated with honors. And Nikki almost got straight A's in college. She got them all through high school, by the way. And he did not get them all through high school. So, they're both brilliant. Properly punctuate these yellow sentences. So now you're going to show what you've learned. Tony snorkels for pearls, and he makes them into a necklace for his wife. Next one. Ashley sews the holes in her pants so she can wear them to school. Next one. Nikki buys new ripped jeans for Spirit Week, but her vice principal won't allow them in school. Next one. Lance got vaccinated from COVID-19, yet he still contracted COVID-19 Omicron variant on his trip and gave it to me, which I have right now. but actually my son got it first, Tony. He gave it to all of us. And I don't know if it's Tony or Ashley, but pretty sure it was Tony. Okay. Properly punctuate the yellow sentences. I can join the choir, or I can join the band. Although I joined the band, my orchestra teacher also allowed me to join the orchestra. My orchestra teacher allowed me to join the orchestra, although I had already joined the band. The young man and young lady can join the choir or join the band. The young man and young lady can join the choir, or they can join the band. All right. And we have just a few more. Please properly punctuate these yellow sentences. So we have she drives, he navigates. You put that together with a semicolon, right? Or with a coordinated conjunction. She drives and he navigates. How do you punctuate that? Or with a subordinate conjunction, the word when. How do you punctuate she drives when he navigates? Alrighty, we're on the finish line. This is the last one. Now, these you have to figure out. They're going to be in different words, but you're going to get them all right. I have faith in you. Tony ate poi, although he prefers pudding. Number 2. Tony ate poi, but he prefers pudding. Number 3. Tony ate poi when he prefers pudding. Number 4. Tony ate poi, yet he prefers pudding. Number 5. When Tony ate poi, he enjoyed it. Number 6. Tony ate poi and he enjoyed it. Number 7. Since Tony ate poi, he no longer wanted pudding. Number 8. Tony ate poi and he no longer wanted pudding. All right, how did you do? Okay, that ends today's lesson, and now we are going to move into a recap of what we've already learned so far. Today's been a big day for you. You've really learned how to do BOYSFAN and subordinate conjunctions. So I'm going to recap quickly for you so that you're not overwhelmed. Remember, capitalization rules, proper nouns, brand names, not common nouns or common names after the business names, titles when they come before a person's name, like Dr. Fisher, hopefully soon. We capitalize the days of the week, the month of the year, and special calendar events, but we do not capitalize fall, spring, winter, or summer. We know that when we quote, paraphrase, or summarize, we have to say who the author is and give the page number. We also know that when we are quoting and paraphrasing and summarizing, whenever we're on the test and they ask to include evidence, we are always going to quote it. The only 2 times we don't quote it is if they specifically ask us to quote or paraphrase. Then we know they're testing our knowledge, and they want to know if we know when we paraphrase and when we summarize, it's in our own words. It's not quoted word for word. We also know to always spell check, grammar check, and edit when we're working. We know about our adjectives and our adverbs and what they do in our sentence to make our sentence more interesting. We definitely know how to punctuate dialogue in narrative. A narrative is a story that we tell, and we know to punctuate that by every time the speaker changes, we change lines and indent. We put in quotes what the person says word for word, and we always have a tagline, which tells you who spoke, right? So it's either before with a comma separating it, or it's after with a comma separating it, unless it's a question mark or an exclamation. We know that when we're finding our pronoun references, that we look our subject-verb agreement with a pronoun reference, that we look for a man's. If it's almost, any, none, and some, we look at the object of the preposition to see which verb to choose. But if it's one body, and it's any of these words, each, either, neither, one, everyone, everybody, no one, nobody, anyone, anybody, someone, somebody, then it's always going to be singular. And we now know that they, them, and their can be singular or plural. We've also learned that direct addresses are directly who we're talking to, and they're set apart with commas, and if they're in the middle of a sentence, a comma on both sides, and they're always capitalized. So if you call Dad, where is my dad, comma, and Dad's capitalized. If it's in the middle of the sentence, where's my book, Dad? Then he's still capitalized because he's the direct address. We know that when we're choosing these objective and subjective verbs that we think about our Cookie Monster, and we know that if it's acting as the object, the direct object, the indirect object, or the object of the preposition, we choose the pronoun with the M on it. Good. We also know that if it's a subjective, we're looking for the pronoun in the subjective form, and it is acting as the predicate nominative, remember, that follows a linking verb and renames the subject. Mrs. Fisher is the teacher. Mrs. Fisher is she, not is her, is she, because she is the teacher. You flip it around, okay? All right. And we learned about mood and voice, and we know to do verb tense consistency, past, 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 present, 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 future, future, future. We know that parallelism means that we don't only have verb tense consistency, but we also want to have our verbs that are similar, or how many adjectives we used, how many adverbs we used, try to make it consistent. If we used a prepositional phrase in one part of the sentence, we want to use a prepositional phrase again, and that's how we make our parallelism. We learned all these rules today, that when you have a subject, verb, you can combine them with semicolons between them. You can add a comma and a coordinating conjunction between them, or you can use a subordinating conjunction. When it's in the middle of the sentence, it becomes the comma, and when it's at the beginning of the sentence, it needs a comma. All right, all of that, you got it done in less than 30 minutes. You are done and done. Congratulations, and I look forward to our next lesson. Have a great day.